Howdy, folks. It's your boy here, and we back. We got some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and we're going to go ahead and do an update to all of the passive skill tier lists that I put out. So, passive A skills, B skills, and C skills. Ever since I put these tier lists out, we've gotten a whole bunch of new skills that I wanted to place on the tier lists. So, we're going to go ahead and do that here. And also, we made some changes to the tier lists as well. We got a lot of viewer input from a lot of the videos that I put out here on what skills people want me to bump up and so on and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and cover all that stuff right here. I think it's a good idea to keep a running list of these like passive skills. I got a lot of positive feedback in regards of people like just wanting to have a running list and like know what passive skills they may want to inherit on their units. So that's why I think it's a good idea to keep these up to date. Alright, we're going to start things off with the passive A skills now. So, 2 brand new skills were added since I last released this tier list. Those skills are going to be Attack and Speed Prime 4 and also Bonus Doubler 4. Both of them are wildly powerful skills, so they just found themselves in S tier right out the gates. I'm actually considering for this one making an S plus tier as well, and we're going to put like Flared Sparrow, Attack and Speed Prime 4, and maybe Scowl 4 in there as well. I feel like those 3 in particular are a cut above the rest here, and that's saying quite a lot. When Finish 4 is no longer like the top of the top as far as A-slot passives are concerned, that's how you know power creep has just gone wild. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe S plus tier, because as I said, those 3 skills we mentioned in particular do feel a little stronger than the other ones. But I want some more viewer input on that. Maybe let's see what you guys have to say first. So Prime 4, what is there to really say? It's just a bigger and better version of Distant Attack Speed Solo. Now this skill was jaw-dropping when this came out. Like how strong this was on release, I was just like floored by how crazy the power creep was on this. And this is just taking it a step further with Prime 4. You get more stats, and you just get dual phase stats without having a condition of being solo, and then you're also getting the distant counter. You gotta have 4 active bonuses though, so it's a little harder to maintain than it is to get started. So like at the start of the turn, obviously you're gonna get your 4 bonuses pretty easy. But then on the next turn, after you throw your unit in harm's way, and maybe they're separated from some of the allies that would be granting them start-of-turn bonuses, it's a little hard to maintain the upkeep on it, for the distant counter portion at least. But, of course, if you're just mindful of where you place your units and all those things, then you should have no problems whatsoever just maintaining this and keeping up the distant counter, as well as also the stats up 4, or stats up 9. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, so this skill is nutty. Then we have Bonus Doubler 4, which is equally a pretty good skill. It's not quite as strong as some of these other ones in terms of effects, because really this is only a stat boosting skill. However, it's potentially granting you all stats up 10, because you're getting all stats up 4 no matter what, as long as you've got an ally in 2 spaces. And then it's also adding the highest bonus on each individual stat, either on yourself or the allies within 2 spaces, to all of your other stats. So, assuming plus 6 to everything, then that would be plus 10 to all your stats right there. And it's a nice fix to Bonus Doubler, where the weakness was that enemies that had lull skills or nullified your active bonuses could disable your Bonus Doubler effectively. So, having this using ally bonuses too is a really nice way to get around that and just maintain your all stats at all times. So I think this is really good. But again, the lack of effects and only being stats is one of the downsides here. We are trying to look for more effects now as opposed to a bunch of stats. So I think that's the one thing about this that is weak, but even saying that, that's not really making it that weak. Okay, we also have one changed skill. We have Surge Sparrow, which was bumped up from C skill to, or C tier to B tier here. So we got a couple of people talking about Surge Sparrow and how, oh, on this unit and with this build and combined with this passive, this skill is really nuts. And I mean, I'm not really in full agreement with that, but I do see some value here. Even though it's only player phase stats, that's my biggest issue with this skill. You're not getting the stats on the enemy phase. So even though you get a lot of recovery with this, I would still rather just have the attack and speed up 7 on both phases. So I'm not too sold on this, but I do see value here. Also, it's pretty good in PvE, more so than PvP, where this is a nutty skill for Tempest Trials and chain challenges and like grinding and stuff like that, because you're just always healing. Your characters just have a way to heal a crazy amount at all times. So it's pretty good there. It does have value. So I guess I did see enough reason to bump this up to B tier. Okay, next up we have the B slot passives, and 3 new skills have released since I put out this tier list. So we have, what is this one called again? Dazzle Far Trace. We got Aerial Maneuvers, and then we also have Disarm Trap 4. Those are the 3 new skills that came out. So we're going to start things off with Dazzle Far Trace. It's basically just a side grade to Dazzling Shift for your cavalry types. Dazzling Shift allows your unit with the skill equipped to jump to an ally within 2 spaces. Obviously, that's not beneficial at all to cav types because they already move 3 spaces anyway. So it's like not really relevant on them. It can help them jump onto a trench tile, I guess, but that's pretty rare. Whereas this just makes more sense. It gives your cavalry type units Canto Rem, and then it also gives them Dazzling Shift. So this makes more sense for cavs, and then this makes more sense for non-cavs. So I don't see any reason not to have this in S tier if Dazzling Shift is in S tier. Then we have Aerial Maneuvers, another really nutty skill. This one's actually cracked. Like, being able to warp 2 spaces within an ally within 2 spaces is crazy. Like, that's the reason why Guidance 4 and Soaring Guidance are so bonkers. So being able to do this, it's only for melee flyers, which is the downside. However, that's not really that big of a downside if you think about how strong this skill is. So allowing your flying melees to just move like the wind, and then they get the instant desperation as well, and they're getting some stat drops too. I don't see any reason to have this anywhere besides S tier. I do think it's better than Flow Desperation for melee flyers right now. Obviously, the mobility that it grants is insane. Flow Desperation does give you half a null follow-up, which is very good, obviously. But null follow-up is getting easier and easier to outsource. Especially Elincia, who comes with this, is able to just give it to everybody. So the more and more ways we get to grant null follow-up to everybody, the better and better a lot of these skills are starting to get. So I think this is better for melee flyers. And then finally, Disarm Trap 4, which I went ahead and tossed in the B tier. Now, you could argue for Aether Raids specifically, this is like S+, but that's only in Aether Raids. There's more modes to worry about than just Aether Raids. So what this does, different from the original, is that it also gives you protection against the Hex Trap now. So you're getting a +10 to your HP when checking the Hex Trap's HP restriction. So that's obviously very helpful, combined with blessings that you may be getting from your allies in AR. You can easily just teabag all over the enemy's Hex Trap like it's nothing. So this is pretty good. And then it does have some combat utility as well. It's giving you half a null follow-up and speed and defense -4 on the foe. So the half a null follow-up can be pretty beneficial. Since we're talking about we're talking about dagger types specifically, they are a ranged weapon. So they're not able to get flow skills like Flow Desperation and what have you. So for specifically your flying and your cavalry type daggers, I think they would make the best use of this, because they're going to be able to get half a null follow-up there when they wouldn't be able to get Flow Desperation and like all the other flow skills to get their half a null follow-up from there. So that can be pretty good. Again, though, this is very niche. It's only for Aether Raids. Mostly. It does do stuff outside of it, but not enough, in my opinion. So we got this in the B tier. Still very useful, though. And then as far as the changelog is concerned, we have magical and physical null follow-up being bumped up to the S tier. We're starting to see more counterplay to Special Spiral 4. A lot more skills and effects are giving the auto pulse now. So we're talking units like Timera, who just recently came out, who can always just do the +1 special trigger to your allies that are within the range of Timera's weapon. So having access to this is a little better. Also, more units are having weapons that want this over Special Spiral 4. Like Brave Marianne, for example, works really nutty with this. There's also Bramimond on his remix that uses this pretty well. So I don't see any reason not to have this in S tier alongside Special Spiral 4. Both of them are good in their own rights and for different purposes. So, yeah, these are your two bread and butter offensive DPS skills right now. And I believe that's the only other change that we have to cover in here. So let's go ahead and move on to finally the C-slot passives now. So 3 new skills came out when I last made this tier list, and those skills are Attack and Speed Pledge, we got Defense and Res Ploy 3, and we also have Infantry Pulse 4. All of them were just tossed right into S tier right on the spot. So Attack and Speed Pledge is a side grade to Attack and Speed Oath. Instead of getting the Warp effect, you're getting a Special Acceleration on Hit effect. So pretty strong. And it's also, of course, giving all the other effects of Oath 4 as well, the Attack and Speed up 6 and the Drive Attack and Speed. Now, where this falls flat is that, unfortunately, it's infantry locked. Had this been available to Cavs and Flyers, this actually would have been an S+. But infantry types already have many ways to get Special Acceleration on Hit. They are the easiest units to do that with, whereas Flyers and Cavs are kind of out of luck. So they would have appreciated this way more, but it is what it is. We gotta just keep it in S tier anyway. It's still at least as good as Oath 4. Then we have Defense and Res Ploy 3. Now, this skill maybe could be an S+. That I'm not, like, completely sold on yet. I still think this is probably an S tier, but it's really strong, obviously. Massive radius of effect. 3 columns and 3 rows centered on the unit that has it. Then the enemies are taking exposure. They're taking Defense and Res -7. And then you're nullifying their bonus doubler and also grand strategy. So it turns off all of the, like, stat ball effects that the enemies may be trying to stack on their units. This is really strong. This is a really goddamn good debuff skill. But I think it needs a little more time to simmer in the pot. I haven't had enough time to, like, really playtest this enough or fight against it. On paper, it's really good, and in use from what I've seen already, it's really good. But I want to see it a little bit more in action before I can jump it up to S+. And then finally, we have Infantry Pulse 4, which is a complete upgrade to level 3. So instead of only working on turn 1, this works at the start of every turn, which is obviously a bonus. Also, it's checking your unit's max HP as opposed to their current HP when doing the pulsing for your allies that would have less HP. So that's really good. Makes this very consistent and easy to just keep on using over and over. And what it does is it gives you -1 special cooldown to yourself. So it's already got Times Pulse 3 built in, which is nice. And then, of course, just like Infantry Pulse 3, it's also pulsing your allies with less HP. And it's less max HP, as I just brought up. So you can do this pretty easily. You can get your other guys set up. It's very nice for enabling Special Spiral 4 on a lot of units. So that is very good. I still think Times Pulse 4 is slightly better, though. It's more self-sufficient because you get the -1. And then you also further get the -1 after every round of combat. Whereas this is only at the start of the turn. So less of a cooldown on Times Pulse 4 as opposed to Infantry Pulse 4. So I do think this is still a little better, but this is really good. Obviously, being able to enable your allies with the Pulse is still very strong. And as far as the changelog is concerned for the C-slot passive tier list, we got 3 skills that bumped up. The first is Infantry Null Follow-Up. I had so many requests to bump this up. I mean, I'm just one guy. Like, I have my own opinion of things, obviously. I thought this was D tier. I still think this is D tier, probably. But when you're getting enough feedback from the same thing, like maybe I'm wrong about it, I don't know. I'll eat the L if I am wrong, but I'm still not putting it over Infantry Speed Tactic because at the end of the day, this is still a tactic skill, which is still better. Like, just tactic skills have aged so well. Just being able to get the stat up 6 to all your allies in 2 spaces. These are still like one of the strongest blue buff skills that we have access to, which is crazy because they're from so long ago. Whereas this is only giving you null follow-up and no stats, and it's only for infantry allies. This still gives you null follow-up as well, by the way. You only have to have 2 infantry types on the team to get it. So I can't have this over Infantry Speed Tactic, but I guess at the very least we can have it in B tier. Null follow-up, as I've said earlier, is getting easier and easier to outsource. Legendary Alincia is just a bona fide unit, and she gives everybody null follow-up for free with no conditions at all. So I don't understand why you would torture yourself and run this in the C skill, but I mean, you be you if that's your thing. Okay, we've also moved up Pulse Smoke and Fatal Smoke. They were in C tier. I decided to bump them both up. Fatal Smoke actually got a resurgence lately because of Legendary Selif's remix. That guy is a nightmare to deal with for Aether Raid's defense teams. He is so hard to kill and hard to get rid of, and with like gatekeepers supporting him, so you get even more passive healing, it's just really difficult to get that guy off the board. So Fatal Smoke is a nice counterplay to Legendary Selif's remix. If he's not able to heal, then he's not that tough of a threat to deal with. So this is actually starting to come back into play, I think. And it's only really good for Aether Raid's defense. I don't think you want to run this so much in Summoner Duels or like other modes, but specifically for Aether Raid's defense, having at least one unit with this is actually going to go quite a long way. So I do think it's pretty valuable there. And then we have Pulse Smoke, which, like we talked about with Infantry Pulse and Times Pulse, like the Pulsing and the Special Spiral 4 is pretty much the meta right now for offensive units. We did just recently get Temera, who can kind of deal with Special Spiral 4 to a degree. So just ways to stop the enemies from using Special Spiral 4 is very good. And of course, Pulse Smoke is able to do that, and it can unpulse like all the enemies within 2 spaces of the target. So if you've got a nuking unit and you just throw them in, you attack the foe, and then you pulse all of their guys so they can't nuke you back, it's a pretty nice way to like just mess with people. So Pulse Smoke still has some value, I think. And that's pretty much all there is to cover for the changelog here. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below on all these new skills that we got. And this is your boy Tacho signing out. So take care, fellas, and I'll catch y'all again on the flip side.